In the mountain's heart she waited, dreaming of peace, so deeply curled around her grief. When he found her, the man's search was done, and he took upon himself her every scar. For power's embrace is a love that wounds.
Dearly beloved, what up, and welcome back to another Malazan Book of the Fallen video. This one is Memories of Ice, Chapter 12, and it's a somber one, my friends. Let's get into it. Chapter stuff first, spoiler stuff second, and we'll make sure to let you know when to get out. And again, we're focused in on one specific plot line, and it's Tok the Younger, who basically has been mute since he ditched Envy and the Segula and Tool and all of his friends to join the Teniscowry, and he is, super starved and sucked in on himself. He hasn't eaten because he doesn't want to cannibalize other people, but he's just so traumatized and turned in on himself just because of what he's witnessed and throughout this whole time. And these Teniscowry just there's no logistics or supply chain or train or anything like that, and so they're just starving basically, and they're just ready to wreck shop because every city they conquer is food for the cauldron, and they are just ready to straight up do work. Tok has been basically drafted up to become one of these lieutenants, although he doesn't really have a role or do anything, but he's one of the kind of inner circle of this guy, Anaster, who's this first child of the Dead Seed, who is basically the kind of military commander of the entire, hundreds of thousands of Teniscowry. And so they're at this kind of mountain stronghold called Outlook, because the army is waiting for some kind of a blessing of some sort from the Panian Seer. And we also find out that, Tool and Envy and Mock and Baljag and Gareth are just wrecking shop themselves on their way up from the south to take on this Panian Seer. Boom! But it's brutal, right? Because we see Tok as just, grappling with being starving, but trying to stick to his guns of not wanting to eat people, but just being so hungry and then just demoralized from all the kind of cannibalism and other, just lack of humanity that he's been seeing all around him this whole time, and just trying to resist the temptation to eat the leg bone of the guy next to him.
No, stay strong.
We see a lot more about this guy, Anaster, and it turns out that the guy's pretty jacked up. He doesn't want physical contact. He only lets his mom touch him or whatever. But the mom is the real piece of work because she's the first, Teniscowry who went and created these children of the Dead Seed. And so you expect a guy born of that kind of circumstance to be jacked up, but the mom is just kind of next level, but she's become an icon amongst all the other, Teniscowry, and it's just really jacking Tok up to witness all this stuff. One thing he does talk about in particular, though, is how this whole kind of poisoning of the warrens and the sickness that's sweeping through all these people, it just kind of smacks of how someone themselves were abused, and then a child, and then that lashes out when they become adults or whatever. And so even as much as all this stuff totally disgusts Tok, it also is just really sad as well.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
But in a way it's a ridiculously smart tactic though, right? Because he has this whole army of hundreds of thousands of people starving, and so they're just only concerned with taking over cities so they get meat for the food pots. And like when they're marching and people are dropping dead because they're starving, those go into the food pots too. So it's like you're just, that constant, you're at the very, very first level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that just keeps the drive going. They keep wanting to like divert off and just like, hey, let's take that town and go eat everybody, right? And then Aster's like, nope, we got to stay focused, on the long-term goal, which is to get to Kapustan, take it over, so that we can then set our sights on these, white-faced Barghast that we're going to take out next. But the Panian Seer is pretty pissed off at the people in this town called Coral, so we're going to go across the river, and basically it's going to be an all-you-can-eat buffet over there.
Who's hungry?
But the biggest part of this chapter is that the jig is up on Tok, right? He gets summoned as the Defiler to this meeting with the Panian Seer. They strip him of all of his weapons that Anaster keeps for himself, and they say that they're going to take him to this meeting with the Panian Seer. And the saddest part is that he's not even scared about, if he's about to get tortured or he's been found out, he's going to get killed. He's, so down and downtrodden and whatever. He's, actually relieved that maybe he'll just get put out of his misery, but at least he's not going to have to watch all this crazy cannibalism and just, again, utter lack of humanity that's about to go down in Coral. Oh! We do get a little bit more detail about just how absolutely savage this whole Envy mock tool clan is, right? And that just Gareth, Baljag, etc. are just absolutely just crushing, and the Panian Seer is throwing everything he has at him, and it's absolutely not even making a dent. And yet for some reason Tok is still glad that he bailed out from them and thinks he's better off with his plan, which is leading him straight up the stairs to the Panian Seer.
No, you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
He does think or he doesn't know, he's unsure, right? At this meeting with the Panian Seer, he's maybe he just wants to ask me questions and he's curious, or maybe he's gonna kill me or whatever. But again, he's just so beyond caring at this point that he's doesn't really matter either way. And so they lead him up all these crazy stairs, and we won't rehash all the gory details, but he goes through this pretty gnarly torture chamber. But he eventually makes it all the way up these stairs, even though he's physically exhausted, to this meeting of the Seer with the Seer, who's this dead corpse, but he can actually see a second presence there under the surface. And the Seer tells him what a huge pain in the ass that Envy and Tool and Mock have been. He points out that those people are coming from the south, and hey, isn't that where you came from too? Aren't those your homies? And of course Tok denies it.
I don't believe you.
He is pretty impressed that Tok is able to see right through his disguise and see the true self down in there, but he's just really suspicious of Tok because Tok won't eat all of his fallen homies. He said, isn't being a cannibal, and so that just what's up with that? And so he serves him this big old giant plate of meat, and he's like, yeah, go ahead, eat. I see you're starving. And Tok's like, you know what? I'm gonna eat anyway, and he just starts eating all the meat. But it ends up being this big sham because he was giving him venison all along, just as a test. And Tok actually knew it was venison because of this whole relationship with the wolf. He's got killer sense of smell, and he even says he can smell memories of ice. But the Seer tells him that again, just he's struggling with this whole Tool Envy clan, and so he's not going to throw any more forces. He's pulling all those folks back, and he's just going to end up dealing with them himself directly. But then we go on Tok's little Baljag daydream connection thing, and we just see that whole group just wreaking havoc, right? Baljag, Gareth, just absolutely tearing it up. Tool, though, is, looking a little worse for wear. They're all, getting their fair share as well. We see that there's all this like Jagat sorcery that's like sweeping down on them, and you know, Envy and Tool comment how just gnarly this, you know, unholy alliance is, basically, where you have like Jagat power, could change shame all. You've got this stuff with the Panion, right? And it's all pretty scary stuff. And you know, unfortunately for Talk, that when he comes back to that like little daydream connection, you know, time jump, whatever he did, like totally keyed the Panion Seer into the fact that he's like connected to this group, and the dude just flips out and starts like breaking all of his bones, you know, shouting everything, and basically, you know, going off on one, and it's pretty damn brutal. He gives him over to this giant like reptile thing and imbues him with this like healing ability, so that this giant reptile like hugs him into this motherly embrace and just crushes him, and then he gets healed again, and then it breaks every bone in his body just over and over and over again. And so, yeah, our boy Talk is, he's in for a long one. So that's where we're going to leave the regular part of the chapter. There's not that much spoilery goodness, but I do want to talk about a few things with the Malazan veterans. So thank you so much to the recruits for watching, like, subscribe, and all of that stuff. And we'll see you on the next one. I feel like these chapters are so fast-paced that there isn't a lot of like foreshadowing and stuff to talk about, but the one thing that really did stick out was this whole, you know, beast hold thing, because like all of the Panions people see Tog and Fandaray in there. And actually that's such a just like strong undercurrent running through the books, even though it's like a relatively minor part of the overall plot, I feel like. But you have that in the very first part of the prologue, the end of the prologue. You have it actually at the end in the epilogue and stuff too, and just how that connects. You know, it's a fine thread, but it's one that runs throughout the whole story. You have Ganos, who keeps remembering all that stuff about the Beast Hold, so they do set up quite a bit in relation to the Tog Fandaray plotline. That it stood out to me because I just forgot how big of a deal that actually was in the grand scheme of the book, with Gruntle and what happens with Trake and Fenner, and you know, all the Panion Seer stuff, the Jagat stuff, like the Endgame stuff, and the Ascension of the Bridge Burners and all that. It's easy to forget that part. But man, on this fourth time through, the other thing that really just stands out is like I'm starting to become more like my buddy Alan from Library of Alexandria, just like, Talk, what were you thinking, bro? And he like continues to justify, even as all of his bones are getting crushed, like, yeah, but I'm better off with them. And it's like, dude, they're literally wiping out like 20, 30,000 people, armies at a time, no problem, but you think you're better to go it alone. So yeah, Talk, come on, bro. But yeah, we'll go ahead and leave it there. Like I said, these ones are just so rapid fire that, you know, I've just been enjoying the actual major plot points. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give it that thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm serves us up to more potential Meslas, and we get that playlist there in perpetuity for any new recruits that stumble onto the series. Buy some merch, become a patron. You can join on the channel itself. You can definitely join us in the Discord, and that's totally free, and we have a lot of fun in there. So pick one or all of the above, and until next time, happy reading.